And we will get started. All right, so plan is to do lesson 8. It is a single app end of chapter puzzle. And the goal is to recreate this example, which they're calling a lock screen maker, which is designed to pick a from a list of provided icons that are built in, and even the list is pre-built for you. Pick one of those random shapes, and you can then pick random colors for each, random locations for each, and random one of the random shapes. Okay. We are going to do this, but we are also going to extend our ability by adding a couple of features, which we'll get to at the end. Okay, so make your way to the second bubble and let's do this. We get here and we get almost nothing. We get a list called icons list, containing 8 strings, each of which corresponds to one of the icons in AppLab. And the basic idea is we are going to, in a more complicated way, set the property of each of these icons, set its image property to one of these strings, because the third parameter in the set property command is looking for a string that corresponds to something, either an image URL or something built in to AppLab. And of course, it's always going to be the same thing, but we want them all to get the same image, the same one from this list, but we want it to be chosen randomly. We randomly want to pick one of the strings from this list and apply it to all of them. We want them each to get a random color from a full range of colors. And we want them each to get a new location and size on the screen. But we're going to adjust that randomness so that it doesn't go off the screen, which is based on its size. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So as far as variables go, there aren't really going to be global variables other than this icon list, because each of the 3 operations, new color, new location, and new shape, are all very independent. And they don't rely on each other, and none of them really rely on the others to like operate. So there aren't really going to be global variables. So we can jump right in with event handlers. And then at the bottom is going to be functions and some more white space. And for event handlers, there's only 3 buttons, and rather there are exactly 3 buttons. So we're going to need 3 events. And those are going to be on event when each of them is clicked. Okay, the first one is called colored button. When colors button is clicked, do some stuff. When locations button is clicked, do some stuff. And when shapes button is clicked, do some stuff. Okay, so there you go. 3 event handlers. We're almost done. Not really. So for each of these events are going to run anytime we click. So in theory, we could put all of our commands and loops and all that kind of stuff inside of this based on what they want to do. The thing is, we want all of these, when the app starts, we want it to be the equivalent of hitting all three of these, because right now when you hit run, well, it might give me an error, but all 20 of the images have no image property or color or size or whatever. So nothing happens right away. We want it to be like we get a random shape, a random location, a random set of colors right away. So what we're going to do is just have each of these be a function, their own separate function, and call all three of them right away when the program starts. Okay, so it's the equivalent of hitting all three buttons when we hit run. We just need to name these. How about new color, new location, new lock, and new icon. And let's go ahead and call all three of these at the beginning. Okay, and all three of these need a function definition because it won't work otherwise. And the functions are new color, new location, and new icon. There we go. Okay, so we have three separate puzzles to solve, corresponding one to each of the different buttons. But we can't really debug color or location until the icons have an image property. We can't tell they're in a new location if they're still invisible. And we can't tell if they have a different color assigned to them if they're still invisible. So we need to solve the new icon one first, just so we can debug the others. All right, so new icon needs to pick one of these at random and assign it to all 20 of the image elements. Now, luckily, they've gone ahead and named all 20 of them icon followed by a number between 0 and 19. That means we can use that clever trick where we do a loop 20 times, we do a for loop 20 times, and each time through, we can just call a single set property, and we want to set the property of icon plus I. Okay, so this first parameter for set property is expecting a string that corresponds to the name of some element. We are concatenating the word icon with the value of I each time through the loop, and then doing the set property. And this, you're going to see this the rest of the project. The first time through, I is 0, so the set property is calling icon 0, change its properties. The second time through, I is 1, icon 1, change its properties, and so on. So what property do we want to change? Well, we want to change its image property. We want to give it an image. And we want to set it to one of these at random. Now, in order to do that, we need to get a random number that corresponds to an index where something exists, and then set the image property to whatever's at icons list at index random, whatever the random number is. Okay. So in order to do that, we need to create a variable just to hold that piece of information. And how about rand icon or rand index or something like that? And we want it to get a random number, not the item from the list, but a random number that corresponds to a valid index in the list. And we could do between 0 and 7, because there are 8 items. The first element is always index 0. And in this list, the last element is index 7. Or we could just do it the real way, which we want a number between 0 and icons list dot length -1. That will always give us a random number that corresponds to a valid situation. And the that way we can then set the image property to icons list at index rand icon. Because inside the square brackets needs to be a number or a variable that is containing a number, which is what's happening here. And it almost always will be a variable, just for the fact that lists tend to change length, not in this app, but overall. And very rarely will you be hard coding the index that something is happening at. But here we are. So we have a new number. We're setting the priority each one. I think something's actually going to happen now when we click go. Yeah, it does. And it also should happen when we click on shapes. Wow, that's slow. No. Did we call it? Wonder if I just got the same one twice in a row. Is this not working? Shapes button is calling new icon. New icon. Oh, it is working. First of all, it's just really slow, and I don't know why. It's been slow all day. And also, there's always a possibility. There's a 1 in 8 possibility that when you click on shapes, it chooses the one that it already was. And that is one of the features we're going to add on to the end that will check to see if the random one selected was the previous one. And if it was, pick a different one. So that doesn't happen. Okay, this is what we want. We have all of them getting the same random, the same icon, a random one, but all the same. If we chose a new random number every time through the loop, they would all get a random icon, which I don't know, isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's not what we're going for. And it would be hard to tell if you have 20 random icons. It's hard to really tell that it's even changed. So let's leave it out there like that. And there we go. All right, so random icon is working, and now we can pick a one of these two to work on. Let's do new color first. So what's going to happen in new color? Well, we want each of them to get their own fully random color. So 0 to 255 for each of the 3 color channels. And because we want them to each get their own, we want it to choose that random value every time through the loop. So the random, in this case, will be inside of the loop. But the same basic setup. We need a loop, a for loop, inside of our new color function that we want to happen 20 times. And we want to set the property, set property of icon plus I, icon in quotes, plus I outside of quotes. Make sure you don't do +1, because it's not +1, it's plus I. We want to set its color property or icon color property to a random number. Now, the regular way to do this would be to have this, and it starts to get super long because we keep throwing random numbers in there, and it starts to go off the screen a bunch. So what I'm actually going to do, just to sort of keep things neat, is to create a variable just to hold that new color, and we call it new color, and have that hold my random RGB of 0 to 255 for all 3 of the color channels. Which would be like this: 0 to 255 for green and 0 to 255 for blue. And let's leave opacity at 0.5. We can change that later. Be pretty easy. Then we're just setting the icon color to new color. Okay, so this is new color is already defined. Oh, that's New color is already the name of the function. How about rand color? Let's not, let's call the variable rand color. All right, there you go. Thank you for the yellow triangle there. So, like I said, we could put this entire thing right in here and it would work. But I think it's a little easier. That's not what I wanted to do, to see things like this. And now when we hit run, we should get a new icon, and shapes should still work. It does, and colors works also. Okay, they're each getting their own fully random color. I would like to have the background also get a random color. So we need a set property, and it doesn't need to go inside the loop because we only need to do it once. And we want to set the property of home screen. And if you mouse over, you can see that it's called home screen. That's the screen property. And the property you want to set is its background color. Screens only have 3 properties: image, icon color, and background color. And we want to set it to another fully random color. So if you're doing copy and pasting text mode, make sure you're getting the correct number of parentheses, because it will cause you issues if you don't. And you can always just drag out the RGB blocks and deal with it that way. And so that looks like that. I don't know how to show you more of my code. It's so ridiculous in block form, but yeah, it's kind of unreadable. So now it should give us a random background color also. But sorry, folks. Then actually save. And so colors. Are we getting any light colors? We are. Okay. So we've got shapes and we've got colors. Great. Okay. The only other one, in order to get to the what they're expecting before we do some bonus stuff, is to give them each a new location. Now we want them each to get their own location. So everything's going to happen inside the loop. And we want to give them a random X and Y, the full random range, but we don't want them to go off the screen. So we're going to limit the range to the total width minus their size, and limit the height range to the total height minus their size. So we want to give them a random size, and then we're going to give them a random XY based on that size. Now, for icons, if you did a random number for its width and a random number for height, its size will be whatever the smaller number is. So they need to have this, they need to be the same number in order for it to be big. Just trust me on that. So we want to give the width a random number and the height a random number, but give them both the same. So we only need to pick one random number. And let's pick a good range. They're starting out at 20 by 20. And I think that's about as small as I'd like to go. For the big end, maybe like 200 by 200 for the big ones. Okay, so in order to choose our new location, well, we're doing the same thing to all the items. So everything's going to go inside the loop. And we're going to do it 20 times. And we need a random number that we're going to use a bunch of places. So it needs to be a variable, and a local variable here is fine. Let's call it rand location. And it's actually its size. The random number we're choosing, its size, and its location is going to be based off its size. So I think size is a better name for it. And we want a random number that we are going to use as both its height and width. And the small end I liked was 20. The big end was 200. You can change that if you want. I'm not terribly concerned if you do like 300 or 400 and make it super tiny. Just needs to be a relevant range. And we're going to set the property of each of them in order. And we're going to set its height and width property. Height and width to size. And we need to do our icon plus I in order to do it to all of them. Okay, and that should give us all of them having different sizes. It doesn't feel like a huge range. Its height, its width are each getting random size. I guess it's all right. I think it's just because they're on top of each other. Okay, so they're all getting new size, and we want to give them all a new X and new Y. So we need two more, all of which are icon I, but this one is going to be its X location, and the other one's going to be its Y location. So setting its X and Y, what are we going to set it to? Well, those of you who are not in my class last semester may have not spent as much time doing the design aspects, but in case you weren't aware, the X range of the screen all the way to the left is 0x, and all the way to the right is 320x. And for height, all the way to the top is 0y, and all the way to the bottom is 450y. We don't want it to go farther to the right than its width. So it's always going to be 320 minus how big it is our range. So it's going to be the farthest left we want to go is 0. It's never going to go off, no matter how big it is, it's never going to go off to the left because it's always measured to the top left corner. So the range is going to be between 0 and 320 minus size. And since size has already been declared up here, right here, we can use it. This is where we're using that variable. So its X range is 320 minus size, and its Y range is going to be 450 minus size, except if we do 450 minus size, it's still going to end up right here. So I'm going to do, so it doesn't go over the buttons, I'm going to leave it at like 410 minus size. So yeah, 410 minus size. And well, that's weird. That doesn't seem right. Icon plus I, 310. Something is wrong here. Random number, size 0 to 20, X, Y, width, height. Icon plus I. I've done something wrong here. All right, where's the typo? Icon plus I. Who can spot it? Size. Let's just see what happens. Go for it. What did I do wrong? 150. 50, they should all be in the center. Size, random number. Hold on a second, folks. I is 20, I, size is 0 to 2. That's width to size, height to size. There's something weird there. Of course there's something weird. Do I have a typo? All right, let's debug. Let's do console log size, just to see what's going through. Oh, this will be fun. Shouldn't be a struggle. It is okay. We're getting all new random numbers. Fine. The random range looks fine. And we are setting the X to why would that be a difference? X of size and Y of size. Okay, that works fine. Folks, stay with me for a second. Hold on. Why is this not working? Oh, because, all right, so here's what's up. Here's the problem. We are choosing, it's all based on size, but that's not what we want. We want random. We haven't chosen a random location. That's why. Okay. Here is the problem. Here is the solution. Do listen. Shh. Do stop talking. Here's the problem. I was setting them each X and Y to the full width minus their size and the full height minus their size, but that's not what we want. We want a random range for each of them between 0 and the farthest. 0 is the farthest to the left. The farthest to the right is 320, but we don't want to go outside. So it's 320 minus size. And for height, it's between 0 and 450. Oh, 410 minus size. There we go. That's the problem. We weren't choosing a new random number. And there we go. And we are pretty good to go. Now, because of the way that AppLab works, or rather the icons in AppLab work, they don't fill the area that, okay, so you can see that the image element is however big, but the icon doesn't fill the whole thing. And that is keeping the screen from being filled, because the X and Y corresponds to the elements property. And so it's never going to get closer than that. If it's smaller, it will get like that close. So if you wanted to extend the range to a little bit below 0 to a little bit above maximum, you could get it closer. So you could do negative, negative 0.2 times size. Hey guys, please stop talking. And that would get closer based on the width, the actual size of the, that would cut off 20% of the image to the left, which would let you get it closer. And then the larger one would be 320. Well, that's too long. 320 plus never mind. It's too much at this point, but it's fine. That's how you would do that if you want to do that. All right, so that's it for the basic app. We're going to add 2 other features to this. We are going to add a button that will make the buttons disappear and sort of lock the screen, I guess. And we're going to add a feature that will keep it from repeating the app twice in a row, which, like I said, is well, as you can tell, it's a 1 in 8 chance that you get the same one twice. Like that. There we go. Got the same one twice. So let's fix that first. Obviously, that's going to happen down here in the new shape or new icon function. And in order to do this, we need to keep track of what we have. And we could either do that as like a global variable that would store which one it is and then compare the two, or we can do get property. So the get property command will assign to a variable any of the properties. So we need a way of getting what the old icon is. So how about let's make a variable called old icon and have it get the property from it doesn't matter which, since they're all the same. So how about just icon 0 and get its image property. And just to see what is, it's always a good idea to see how the computer is interpreting things. So we can console log old icon and see what it spits out. And it spits out, no, nothing. Old icon, it's not getting it. What is it? Is it icon color? Why is it not doing it? Old icon. Get property. Does it only run? Oh, it will only run the second time. There we go. So the first time through, there's nothing to click there. Okay. So in order to do this, we are getting what the old one is. And we need then to get a random one and check to make sure that it's not the same. So the first thing we need to do, we can get rid of this. So we have this holding the last one or the previous one. And we have this is where we're choosing the rand icon list. But we want it to keep, if it's the same, we want it to keep looping through. Okay. And how are we gonna do this? Well, first, let's separate the old portion from the new portion. So this other loop is what we already had, and it's setting it to whatever we end up with. But we want it to keep picking a new one while they're the same. So let's use a while loop. And let's do, okay, while old icon double equals, okay, old icon is the string that corresponds to the icon name. So we need to figure out what it would be if they're not the same. So while old icon is the same as icons list at index rand icon, I want rand icon to pick a new one. So we're going to reassign rand icon. Well, actually, it's the exact same as this line right here, except we need to get rid of the var the second time through. So this is actually the first time we've used local variables twice in the same function. But here we go. Okay, so here's our old one. This is going to come through as the name of the icon, which is why we need to compare it against something that will return the name of the icon. So it's not the, this should really be like random index, but random old icon is the name of the old icon, obviously. And while it is the same as whatever one we've chosen at random, pick a new one. And then go through and check again. So I think this should work. The first time through it might, okay. So the way you could prove this, now it's hard to prove because there are 8 things. What we can do is get rid of all but 2 of them. Okay, we get rid of all but 2 of the items in the list. and it should switch every time. There you go. Okay, we solved it. I'll give you another second to look at this. It's a little bit clunky. I don't think it's that bad. Okay, but we got an opportunity to use a while loop. There you go, there's a while loop. While they're the same, keep picking a new one. Once they are not the same, end the list and keep whatever the number was the last time you chose that they weren't the same, and then update the screen using that, looping through all of them. Okay, that's a little bit complex. I'm guessing some of you caught it or understood it. If you didn't, that's fine. Its utility is not super huge in that you could just hit the shapes button again. But either way. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is add a button that will make these disappear or reappear, depending, and that's important. You want them to reappear. So in order to do that, we need a new button, but actually I'm going to use an icon, and you can use whatever icon you want. I like the check mark. Something, but make it small. That makes the most sense. And I think a top corner is probably good. And let's call it check mark button. And even though it's an image element, if you're using it as a button, call it a button. And it's a new button, so we need a new event handler to handle it. And so let's get out an event handler. And on event, check mark button is clicked, do a thing. So the property that hides something is its hidden property. Okay, hidden checked is the same thing as hidden equals true, and unchecked is hidden equals false. Because this is going to be returned as a Boolean, it's going to return itself as a true or false. We can put that directly into some sort of conditional. Like if it's true, if it is hidden, set it to false, otherwise set it to true. And we're going to do that for each of them. So in order to do the conditional, so for each one, let's just solve colors and then duplicate it. So in order to do that, we need to get the property of whether or not it's hidden. And let's store it in a variable. And the property is its hiddenness. So at this point, okay, so if colors button is hidden, get property of colors button hidden, and let's call it is colors hidden. It's a little clunky, but then we can, well, let's just check, let's just console log and see how it's being returned. So console log is colors hidden, and I want it to return false because right now it is not hidden. While it's slow. Oh, I got to click the check mark button. There we go. It is not hidden. If I start it as hidden, hidden check mark, hidden gets a check mark, meaning it is hidden. If I run it now and click on the check mark, it is hidden. So the whole idea is, first thing we need to do is get that property to decide whether or not it's hidden. If it is hidden, set its hiddenness to true. No, if it is hidden, if it's true, set it to false. If it's false, set it to true. And anytime you're checking something, we want a conditional. So if is colors hidden, a ridiculous name, double equals true, meaning it is hidden. We want to set the property of colors button. Come on now. Set colors button, its hidden property, to false. You'll notice that with the hidden property, there's only two parameters you could do. And otherwise, we want to set it to true. Okay, if it's true, set it to false. Otherwise, set it to true. So now we hit run. We click on this button. It should, hold on, is colors hidden? True. Oh, true needs to be lowercase. My mistake. All right, so let's try it again. So we click on the check mark and it hides and shows the button. And when it's hidden, you can't click on it. So it does work as sort of a locking out feature. Now we just need to do the same thing twice more. And we can pretty much just copy it. Is locations hidden? Get the property of locations button. Get its hidden property. If is location hidden true, set the property of locations button to false, otherwise set it to true. And we'll hit run. And I don't know if I need to restart my computer because it should not be that slow, but here you go. Now these two turn on and off. And last one, same thing. And how about is shapes hidden? And if get property of shapes button. And if is shapes button is true, set the shapes button hidden property to false, otherwise set it back to true. And now they all turn on and off. So that's a thing. This is unbelievably slow. But either way, I think we've got a nice little app there with a couple of bonus features. And that's it. Okay. You guys have any questions? No, we're good. Okay, so please tidy your code up a little bit. I know we start out with like 50 lines of white space, but you don't need to leave it in. And there you go. All right, so that's where we're going to end it. And let me know if you have any questions.